So we have our vertebrae. We have a nice big pile of vertebrae. Now, I have done this in exams before, and don't think I won't do it if we can try it, where I just have a big bag of vertebrae. You have to reach your hand in blind and pull out a specific vertebrae, because you should be able to, just based on the features. So we're going to kind of walk through them right now. So we're going to move these all away, and we are going to start at the most superior. So this is C1, cervical 1. A couple outstanding features of cervical 1, definitely a ring-like formation, right? Like all cervical vertebrae, it's got your vertebral foramen, which allows for passage of arteries going through the transverse process. You're going to notice there is no body and there is no spinous process. So not designed to bear weight, not designed to really transmit weight, but this is a ring-like structure. You see the two large facets here, which can accommodate the odontoid process of the skull, so that allows for that. And then you have this posterior facet right here, which is going to allow for articulation with the dens process from C2, which is right here. So this is cervical 2. Cervical 2, again, you have your foramen right there, the holes, so you can see. That's most distinguishing feature is this dens, or the odontoid process, orthodontic tooth-like projection. And so this projects straight superiorly. So if you actually take C1 and pop C1 on top of it, you get this, which allows C1 to pivot and rotate on C2. Okay, the C2 is also known as the axis. C1 is known as the atlas. If you remember, Atlas held the world on his shoulders, and considering how the skull sits on C1, that makes sense. So atlas, axis, C1, C2. Now we can just go and I'll put these to a side, and I'll just grab any, I have a whole bunch of them. I'll grab any cervical vertebrae. And a couple of things you can tell about the cervical vertebrae. They are pretty thin. They are pretty flimsy. They have a triangular shaped vertebral foramen. Okay, so you can see that vertebral foramen, which is what the arch, so you have your vertebral arch and your body make up the vertebral foramen. It's triangular shaped in nature. You have transverse foramen right in there in the transverse process. So again, these foramen that allow the passage of arteries come through these transverse process. Make sure you can see those pretty good. C3 through 5 have a short bifurcated spinous process. So you can see how the spinous process bifurcates, that double thing. So this is obviously a C3, 4, or 5. I don't have them labeled, so I'm not really sure which one it is. C6 and 7 have longer transverse processes. Let's see if I can grab one. There you go. There's one of those, so you can see how that looks. Similar shape. You can definitely tell it's cervical in nature, but a much longer spinous process. Okay, so that's basically our cervical vertebrae and the regional characteristics thereof. Now let's talk about the thoracics. Let me grab a thoracic. This is a thoracic. Looks like this. Some people say it looks like a giraffe or an anteater. I think the upper ones, which are more straight horizontal orientation of the spinous process, I think they may be more giraffe-like. And then you get something, let me go grab one, more like this. I don't know, I think that looks more anteater-ish. Maybe it does look giraffe-y, I don't know. But you can tell in this angle how the spinous process is definitely more angled as compared to this one. Okay, so it actually would be flip-flop, so it would be more horizontal and just like that. It has to be slanted this way and this downward to accommodate for being able to forward trunk flex and extend. So that's why you have that. So a heart-shaped vertebral body is a regional characteristic of your thoracic vertebrae. You obviously have facets on your transverse processes. If you don't remember this, go back to the rib video and watch that. You also have facets on vertebral bodies to articulate with the ribs. And again, you have these long spinous process which actually overlap with the level behind it. So let me see if I can find one that's a little bit, makes a little bit more sense. Something like that, where they have this overlapping presentation like that. See if you got that? You can look at any skeleton, you can see the thoracic overlap. So that's cervical, that's thoracic. So what does that leave us with? The big boy, lumbar. Lumbar vertebrae, they're really fun. They're big, they're large. You're going to see this kidney-shaped vertebral body. This, you can just tell based on size. So compare this to a thoracic, right? And then compare it to, let me find an itty-bitty little, I can't do that one. I mean, compare a cervical to a lumbar, and you can just tell. One's designed for weight bearing, one is not. So, kidney-shaped vertebral body out of our lumbar, mid-sized triangular-shaped vertebral foramen. The facets, you can see, face pretty much straight vertical, so you don't get a lot of rotation here. So if I stack another lumbar vertebrae here you don't get a lot of rotation. They're really designed mostly for flexion, extension in the sagittal plane. Those vertical arrangements of the facets, the zygapophyseal, they're designed to not allow a lot of rotation in the lumbar spine. A lot of sagittal motion, not so much transverse motion. Look at your spinous processes. They're kind of short and stubby. But the big thing is, I'm going to grab a better one. That's a better one. This is a moose. I mean, it looks like a moose. Big, wide, flat, paddle-like spinous process. These kind of spindly ear, kind of transverse process. But I think this thing looks like a moose. So we have a giraffe anteater. And we have a moose. So those are some of the regional characteristics of the vertebrae. They are designed specifically to allow either mobility, they're designed to restrict mobility in certain things, or they're designed to bear weight and take a lot of force. So that is the regional characteristics of your vertebrae.